friend, it's Dorit Shoshani here, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. On this channel, you will be receiving free weekly content. That means that once a week, I will be posting videos on sleep, parenting, and also on who do you want to be. Now, what does that mean, who do you want to be? It means that I really believe that we want to put intention on how we show up in the world, on how we're presenting ourselves, and on what kind of messages we're giving to the people that we're interacting with. And through this channel, we will gain skills on self-observation, on authenticity, and also, of course, on parenting, and parenting with kindness, with compassion, while honoring connection. Many times in parenting, we tend to think that in order to be good parents, we need to throw ourselves under the bus. We need to make sure that there's absolutely nothing, no stress, no challenge, nothing going on. And that means that we can kind of deserve our good parent badge. But that's not the truth. The truth is it needs to be win-win. Win-win is a concept by Stephen Covey through the 7 principles of highly effective people. And what he basically says in that principle of win-win is that it needs to be good for the child and good for the parents. If it's not good for both parties involved, it's not a good choice. So when we compromise our well-being for the sake of our children, so to say, or at least that's the thought behind it, that cannot be right ever. It needs to be good for us and good for them, and then it's going to be win-win. So let's dive in. When we think about who do we want to be, I just want to bring something up for you so that we understand kind of the reasoning behind this whole concept of me putting focus on how I show up. And this research comes from Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he says that children up until the age of 7 are mainly influenced through observation and imitation. And so what that means is that they're constantly watching us. So really our kids are like little radars, kind of watching our every move. They watch our body language, and they watch our facial expressions, and they watch how we're huffing and puffing or rolling our eyes. They are watching everything, and they're like sponges. So they take it in, they take it in, they take it in. And what Dr. Bruce Lipton kind of uses as an analogy is that like the computer programming is going on during those first 7 years. So all the information that gets inputted into our children's brains or experiences then becomes who they are. They internalize all of that information. I remember when I first learned this, I thought, oh gosh, what are they watching? Like, what are they observing in my behavior? How am I being just on a regular basis? What are they noticing? And then that really allowed me to kind of shift my focus to, Dorit, put the spotlight on yourself and pay attention to how you show up and pay attention to how you respond to situations and kind of your demeanor, because they're taking it all in. So with that, I want to tell you a short story. My husband and I were on a flight for our honeymoon, and we were super excited, and the flight took off, and we were in midair, and the stewardess came out and started passing out refreshments to everyone. And as she started approaching us, the plane started doing this crazy turbulence thing. And we've experienced many flights with turbulence in the past, but this was nothing like previous flights. This was very, very extreme, to the point where we got really, really nervous that something really terrible was going to happen. And so sweaty palms and heart pounding, and like without even talking, we kind of grabbed each other's hand, and we were like really, really nervous. And in an instant, I lifted my head up and I tried to seek out the stewardess. It was like, where is she? What is she doing? So that I can figure out if I'm really in a situation of danger. But actually what I noticed from her was that she just kept smiling her pretty teeth, and she was walking through the aisles, asking people to fasten their seatbelts and passing out refreshments. And I kind of noticed her, and I felt my own distress. And then I noticed her and I felt my own distress. And slowly I noticed that she was gradually bringing me back to calm. Now, at the end of the flight, everything ended up okay. But at the end of the flight, my husband and I kind of reflected on that situation. And we both actually seeked out the stewardess, and we both kind of went about that stressful situation in the same way. And we recognized that just through who she was able to calm us down. Now, remember, she didn't speak to us. She didn't put a message on the loudspeaker telling everyone everything would be okay. She just calmly just did her thing. She passed out drinks, and she told people to fasten their seatbelts, and she smiled, and then she went to the next couple. And that alone was enough to bring us back to calm. And I remember thinking, wait, how could that be? How did she do that? How did she have the power to bring me back to calm without having any interaction with me intentionally? And that's because just who she was in that moment made all the difference in how I could use her as an anchor for myself. If she would have been frazzled and running through the aisles, I would have literally thought I was going to die. But because she was who she was, I used her as an anchor. She became solid, stable, as just who she was. And that solidity, that solid entity became my anchor for bringing myself back down to calm. And I remember thinking, I'm going to take that one, because that's something I do. Whenever I'm learning, whenever I'm around people, I kind of try and seek out information that I feel is very valuable. And then I put it kind of in my purse, and it becomes part of me moving forwards. So I remember thinking, I definitely need to take this with me, because that was very powerful. Just who she was in the moment was my anchor for stability, was my anchor for calm. And when I became a young mom, I right away knew that that was something that I wanted to adopt. I wanted to make sure that I could be that solid anchor, so that my children, when they were feeling distressed or in a moment of panic or uncertain about anything, they could just use me as their anchor. They would just glance over at me and be like, well, it seems like everything is okay because she's just fine. And so I'm going to leave you with that for this video, because I think just the story itself is super powerful, that you can use that as something to reflect on. It's like, how do I show up for my kids? How do they experience me in a time of stress or in a time of uncertainty? You know, specifically right now for us living in Israel, we're going through a war still. And there are many, many times when the situation gets very challenging, or we're having a siren, or my kids get caught off guard and they don't know what to think of the situation. And then I feel like I just want to flip my lid and like, oh my God, what's going on here? But then I remember, I'm like, wait a minute, Dory, they're watching you. They are watching you. How are you showing up? And then I think to myself, collect yourself, calm, poised, stable, because if you are stable, they have an anchor. And so in real time, in your parenting, be it sleep or be it drop off at daycare or any other situation that may, present itself as a challenge, how are you showing up? Are you able to show up with intention? Are you able to be that solid entity for your children? Because if you are, I promise you, first of all, it builds your confidence as a parent. It also creates confidence for your child. And that whole dynamic just ends up being so much smoother. So I hope you've liked what you've heard. I hope it gives you something to think about over the next few days, over the next few months, or years even. For me, it's been years. I want to invite you to hop onto my website, doritshosani.com. The link is below. And there is a button you can click to get the free guide for the 3 main reasons why your child is still not sleeping through the night. Let's get that done, so that we can move on to bigger and better parenting challenges that arise for you. You can grab that free guide right away. If you want to also receive updates, I'm not going to bombard you with messages, just updates about things that are up and coming, about my free webinars twice a month, live Q&As, a bunch of other good stuff. Subscribe to my blog, get on that newsletter. I invite you to join me in my community. Let's do this together. I will see you on the inside.